Hey everybody! Good morning, good morning.
Hi.
Howdy, I'm Adam. Yeah.
We're both Josh, yeah.
It would have worked either way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Josh, or you may know me as Gilly.
I'm Josh Carlson.
We're the team, we're some of the team, because there's a big team here at Chip Theory now helping make all of this happen. But we're part of the team behind Burncycle, and we're here to kick things off, to celebrate a little bit, and answer any questions that you may have about the game. Before we dive into questions, any introductions that either of you want to give about this game, about where we're going, about whatever?
I don't know. I'll just say it's so good to be at this point. It feels like, it ebbs and flows, and right now it feels really good to be having, this was awesome to have that splash of prototype. Now, obviously, this is not final art. That's going to be, the next really cool point in this whole project is when we start getting all of the final room art on neoprene and seeing it happen. But, this was really cool just to have this. And make sure that whole concept was working the way we had imagined it. And so it's exciting to see it in a little bit more of a polished form, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What
about you?
Man, I don't know. So a lot of you know the story behind Cloudspire and
the story
behind Cloudspire about how we were, we were at Essen in the middle of the campaign, trying to film gameplay videos in the hotel lobby. So my biggest takeaway from all of this is that it's so nice to have a fully functional working prototype, to have a few content creators who have seen it and played it and given good, positive feedback on it.
Yep.
This is so much further along when we launch the Kickstarter, and that feels so good to launch a new IP and really give it the attention it deserves. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot to say, but actually I wanted to make sure I took a minute to just, look at the Kickstarter numbers and the backers, and it's just every single time I see, we have a launch day and we're kind of building the anticipation.
Yeah.
See what I did there. But, unbelievable. We got funded in, 3 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And it just blows me away, the love that people have for our games, and it just gives me that much more confidence in all of our work and excitement. I've been working a little bit on Burncycle, but a lot on Victorium also, which is coming down the pipeline. But we will not talk about the next game during this exciting time for Burncycle.
And we should, again, there's a huge team behind us. So we're the three that get to be in front of the camera.
Oh, man,
We've got a bunch of folks who have worked long hours over especially these last 2 weeks. So we want to shout out Heather Kilber for a ton of video work, for a ton of graphic design work on the Kickstarter. We got Melanie Lavely, who's done a ton of graphic design work in the background on a whole bunch of stuff. Andrew Navarro has helped kind of drive the art direction for this game, which has been received super, super well. Ryan Howard has done a bunch of writing for the lore for this game. You're going to see a lot of that start to come to life in our daily updates. Who else am I forgetting? Sean Boyke is brand new. He's been with us for literally a couple weeks, and he's done a bunch of graphic design work on the page and on some of the products.
Amanda's been doing basically everything with the glue that holds all of this together.
Absolutely. Yeah, all of our the playthrough videos that you and I filmed, Amanda worked through the weekend, long hours getting those filmed and buttoned up, along with helping run this live stream. So anyway, Shannon
with all of the reviewers, and Anthony's churning out art like crazy. And we could list everyone on the team, but that's just we
kind of want to. We just want you to know that, again, it's not about us in front of the camera here. It's about so many people that make this go. And I think back to our Undertow Kickstarter, where there was 3 of us trying to do everything, and it's crazy looking at how far we've come and how much smoother everything goes when you have a team behind you. So anyway, so if you're following us on the Kickstarter page, you may want to click over to the actual YouTube page where you can join the chat. If you have questions for us, we're going to be answering them here for, we're going to be here for an hour, hour and a half, 2, whatever. However long you guys have questions for us, we're excited to answer them. we know that a lot of people are going to be coming to the page for the first time and trying to take in all the information. There's a solid, I think, 3 hours of videos for you to for you to engage with, to learn about the game. But we're here to answer questions about the campaign and anything that you have. So why don't we jump into a couple? And if we think of other things that we are interested in saying throughout, we'll pop them in. But so the first question is. It's not. Well, it's phrased sort of as a question. It's a statement and a question.
Yeah.
I am curious why they went with brass minis. Why did we go with a brass minis add-on for this game?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we're not really trying to be a minis company by any means. The thought process behind minis for myself, when we started to introduce them in Cloudspire, was as long as they elevate, so to speak, the chip, if used in conjunction with, and if it supports the chip and the stats and everything about that, then yes. And so, when after doing that and looking at it again with this one, it just felt like this was like a brass token or figurine. Was a little bit more fitting. It allowed us to consider things like embedding a magnet in the bottom, and we've makeshifted one here that would basically snap to your bot, and then it would allow you to move along. Pardon the. What is this from? Unmatched?
Yeah. Bruce Lee from Unmatched. Great game.
Great game, by the way. Yes. But yeah. So having a brass mini is kind of a fun, different take on it, and it still keeps it as like a more of a figurine rather than us trying to just jump into like a minis market type thing. So it also like the weighty feel paired with the chip. I mean, this token that you're moving around, this bot, is substantial, and the fact that they're made of metal, and there's a lot of things that work about it. So I'd say that's kind of why that was at least the inspiration there.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't realized it yet, there's not health chips in this game.
Right.
So this is the first time we've done any really tactical game like this without health chips. So your health in the game is your power, which is also your basic AP dice that you're rolling in the game. So I think that also gave us an opportunity to do something a little bit different. We don't, you're not going to have
you don't have to
figure
move a stack and a mini along.
Right, you're not going to have a mini teetering on the top of a giant health chip stack. So a couple different reasons for that, and also I think the fact that it's a sci-fi game.
Yeah.
With a lot of you're a robot, you're made of metal in the game, you're fighting guards that are in large mechanical suits and that kind of thing. So they're running around in metal. Like it really, everything about it from a theme standpoint really works.
Also, you can do a basic wash on this, like just the finish that it comes, it comes to people in, means they don't have to paint it. They can, but they don't have to, and it looks really cool right out of the box. So we're not catering to the mainstream minis collectors necessarily. So in that regard, I think the people that will enjoy these are a different crowd that may or may not paint them. We're just trying to make it versatile, substantial.
Yeah. I have no interest in painting minis because I was a disaster in every art class I ever took from kindergarten forward. And my wife is actually an art teacher, and she always tries to encourage me in my art, and I always tell her, no, I'm a failure. So,
great.
There you go.
Great.
I'm in the same boat about the minis. I mean, I don't have really miniature games. I don't have the artistic side of me to be able to paint them well. But Andrew Navarro on our team has been doing a lot of painting, and it's really inspired us to even double down on this idea. I'm very excited.
Chesney?
Sorry,
both of them. Yeah,
sorry.
both of them.
Yeah.
We have lots of Andrews and lots of Joshs on our team.
Yes.
2 Joshes, 3 Andrews.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, looking at if there's any other questions, looks like we need to scroll down on our
document.
That's me.
That's me. All right.
Oh no.
Question for JW specifically. Magnets, how do they work? Little Insane Clown Posse reference there for those in the know. We'll skip that one. Where's my CTG mug add-on?
Oh, man.
We keep getting asked that.
It's so funny because we have mugs from, I feel like we ordered those during the Hopload days.
Yeah,
like that was
5 years ago.
Yeah, we were like, hey, we have a company now, we need a mug, right? Like that was kind of and actually, when we did the Hoplo campaign, original Hoplo campaign, we were in with, like I'd found a connection with a place that could do like one-off anything, like one-off embroidery, one-off printing on things like mugs.
Yeah.
And so like the minimum quantity could be one if you wanted. At the time that was hard to find. And so like we were like, hey, let's do like personalized they were mouse pads at the time, but like those I mean we personalized things for backers. Yeah, it was cute early days of like 230 backers or whatever, but we could do that. But yeah, that's when we ordered the mugs, and they've held up. It's one of the things that they've held up, but we've never touched it since.
Our break room is still filled with the mugs, and we have 2 different of those plain mugs, and I use them every day. I don't know why
Yeah, what are you doing?
Today is the one day I chose not to use the mug. Yeah.
Maybe we'll do mugs. Maybe
someday.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe.
So let's see. Okay. Like, please address the changes in VAT laws.
Yeah,
it
please.
Is the question that's coming up over and over and over again. Okay, so so for those of you in Europe, this is a change. So we do need to charge VAT on top of the price of the games at this point. And now this is due to just a few different law changes that are being looked at a little bit more aggressively in terms of how projects are being fulfilled in both the UK and in Europe.
Yeah, some of it we can't subsidize anymore, and that was part of it was we were taking a hit on that, and now between the increases in the shipping and everything else, like we're feeling it more and more and more. So
so some of it really has to do with again, like more and more, the way the Kickstarters were fulfilled just allowed us to crunch the numbers a little bit differently in the past. But with the way that, with some of the stuff with Brexit, with some of the stuff that is happening there, the UK is getting much more aggressive about making sure that they look at every single piece of that and making sure they're getting every single dime of VAT. So we need to be a lot more careful about accounting for it and making sure that it's displayed properly for backers and all that kind of stuff. Yep. And so we're not like excited to charge for it. We understand it's an additional burden for everybody, but at the same time we are also, like you said, we're just unable to continue to subsidize it.
The entire thing.
Yeah. We are still subsidizing at least a portion of it via whether it's via the reduced capped shipping and things along those lines. But yes, that is a change for this campaign. We're also again being more upfront about the fact that if you are in California or you are in Minnesota, we do need to charge sales tax on that transaction. We don't want that to surprise you in the pledge manager.
Yeah, we're actually growing up a little bit.
Yeah. So. Anyway, again, that's not necessarily like good news for folks, and I apologize for that, but that is a thing on this campaign. So
it is worth noting that Andrew Chesney has been keeping an eye on that, and he's very, very knowledgeable about all of the VAT stuff, and he's been in touch talking with Spyro Galaxy, who's been fulfilling for EU. Spyro's been very helpful and knowledgeable. I mean, there's always going to be some question marks, but whenever you see Gasket on our, social channels, if you ask him directly, he might be able to help you ease some concerns or questions that you may have. But Gasket is our operations manager, and he knows his stuff.
Yep,
absolutely. Someone is concerned about the pegs fitting, wants to make sure that it is being considered. We have plenty of experience getting pegs to fit perfectly at this point. We've done it with Splice and Dice, we've done it with Cloudspire. One of the things, this is a good opportunity for us to talk about maybe the different types of neoprene that are going on this map.
Yeah.
So we've got this, and by the way, these are edge stitched. We have not shown any edge stitched mats yet for this campaign, just because we had prototypes in that were not yet stitched.
Yep.
you got this base map, again, artwork not final at all. And then on top of that, we've got these rooms. And so we played with a couple different thicknesses of neoprene for the rooms, trying to find what works best.
Yep. Yeah, so we actually tried a 1mm mat, which lays really thin. The benefits to that is just that there's not such a ledge when you go or transition from a hall to a room. The disadvantage to that is that it just doesn't hold a peg very well. And the pegs are pretty important. Like, we've tried a number of different things, setting a bead down or some other type of marker, but they easily get bumped. And a peg, like the pegs that we're going with are not the ones that you're seeing here that are colored. These are Cloudspire, spray painted Cloudspire pegs.
Right.
But like the idea would be, it's almost like the peg you'd use to like fill in the hole on like a screw hole for a piece of furniture, where it's a flat top peg and the bottom extends down. And the nice thing is that when you put it into, if you have enough neoprene, which we're really liking the 2mm, 3mm, there's just a little bit too much of a jump, and it kind of breaks a little bit of the immersion. So like 2mm is almost unrecognizable that it's a jump, but it holds the pegs well. Yeah. And what you can do is, when you put that peg in, because it has a neoprene base under it, the peg actually sinks down below where it would normally sink if this was just sitting on a table. The peg would stop at the table, and it wouldn't necessarily sink past, because the neoprene kind of holds to the sides because we want it a little bit tight. Mm-hmm. So all of this has been thought through and considered and tested. But yeah, with a neoprene base, that sinks lower then, and so it ends up flush on the room, and it basically will cover up the red dot that is saying that door is locked. So these would be green ones that we're putting in here that would say, that's open now.
I think that's the important detail. You're saying that it's going to be a flat peg,
yeah,
not a 3D sticking out peg. That's important. Yep. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and I think if you watch any of the gameplay videos or explanation videos that Josh and I filmed, I mean, not only are we using Cloudspire pegs going into not the right thickness of neoprene,
but we
legitimately with a hacksaw or with a knife cut them down, scissors. And so they or scissors, I guess, and they they don't work as well or nearly as well as what we will actually have in our final version, but we needed something because we don't have those molded yet. They're not the right color, so anyway, we used what we have. When we're prototyping, we use whatever we have here in the office as much as possible.
The flat top with a kind of a bevel on the edge works the best, just because then a chip could even pass over it and not bump into it really. So they hold really well and they stay right with the surface. So that's working best.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, our equipment crate box is coming back. Oh, man. If you could be a fly on the wall in our office last night. Our equipment crate box is coming back. Is there a stretch goal for network strength dice that aren't just pips?
Okay, so the pips. This is one we'll probably put to the community. During the campaign, there's a lot of flexibility in certain areas, and we really liked the pips. The initial idea was, yes, we would upgrade those in a heartbeat, and we're fine with doing that. The reality is that when you see them on the map, the pips actually kind of stand out and are a unique and more archaic kind of feel to it that I kind of like. But we certainly could do something there, whether it's increase the type of die quality, or if it's a marble die, or if it's whatever kind of feel we have there, we can put that to everyone. I think that would be a fun one to look at. But as far as the the crates, we're still working on making equipment as versatile as we can. Also, trying to factor in that we want to expand that, and we don't necessarily want every single piece of equipment something that you have to then go back to a tray of dice and look through 40 numbers because you uncovered, let's say you uncover the number 5 equipment. Now you have to go through this set of cards and find number 5, and that works if it's a small amount, because It's easy to find, it's quick, and we really liked the visual of the crates sitting out there on the mat. But it doesn't allow for like a lot of expansion very quickly, because you kind of need to cover all of them ahead of time. You could draw a bag and load them in, but it's a little bit janky. So like just know that we're going to get to the best thing there. We definitely tried the crates, and I was loving the visual. That was about where the love stopped, and so like we're just going to keep trying things out there. Right now they're not in the campaign. The equipment dice are, and equipment cards are, but the way that happens is a token. So it's more of it's a chip that sits on these equipment spots.
You're gonna go into a room. You're gonna be unlocking crates with a keypad, the same way that you unlock doors. And we are going to make it as smooth gameplay wise and as interesting visually as we can possibly make it. And there has been much debate internally. Again, if you could have been a fly on the wall,
you can convince this guy on why, not just aesthetically, but why
it actually adds functionally to the gameplay and isn't actually just an extra fiddly thing you need to do during setup.
Right.
We're looking at all of that, and again, it's something that legitimately, I mean, you go back to 11 o'clock at night last night. We were here in the office working on the campaign, arguing about that very concept. So it's not dead. It's just we want to find the best way to do it, and until we find the best way to do it, I mean,
we don't want to overpromise in that way. So
if you've ever followed one of our campaigns before, you know that we tend to add additional unpromised cool stuff.
It'll probably
later.
end up being a little robot that you push on the top and it opens up and gives you your...
Oh, no. Okay.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, probably not. But so they anyway, to answer that question, they still may make an appearance if we can find the right balance where they don't feel fiddly and we can make it smooth gameplay wise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Will the bots be unscathed, or did any gardening accidents happen to them?
They like trolling you.
I know, yeah, it's just endless gilly trolling. I like it. Who is the best character and why?
Well, there's no best character. There's a lot of characters that have a couple different ways you can play them, and it definitely depends on your composition and who you're up against. So if you're going up against Ocularity, you're going to be on the network more than you are needing to be for any other corporation. So bots that are accessing the network easier, ones that can, I think of Processor because he gets a bonus from like basically any, he can say, all right, I'm doing a tech action, even if you're not on a tech action in your burn cycle. Once per turn, like those types of things, that my mind goes to that because you're just able to get on the network faster.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like Processor doesn't bring as many symbols to the table, starting symbols, and that can be an issue when going up against Salida, because she's locking you out of a lot of your burn cycle quickly, and if you don't have the base set of symbols provided to you, like you're going to be hurting. So there's definitely like strengths and some weaknesses to all bots, and it's hard to say which one's best. It would be
the goal is to make them all even, like roughly, relatively even. The difficulty in the game, at the base level difficulty, you're selecting whatever bots you want, both for your control module bot as well as whoever's in your party. The higher difficulty levels in the game, which we're still tweaking and finding different ways to perfect that. But one of the main things is that at the highest difficulty level, you're going to be drawing your bots randomly.
Right.
And that's one of the benefits, I think, of the system in play in this game versus like a Too Many Bones, is that you can learn about your character in by reading their abilities in about a minute or two, as opposed to needing to take home a reference sheet overnight and study your character and come to game night the next night ready to play. So that allows us to do cool things like force you to randomly draw a bot or two or a random control module, that kind of thing, and it's not going to add significant overhead to the game. You're still going to be able to jump in and play, but you still get a lot of cool asymmetrical abilities that really, really flavor the game in significant ways.
And it doesn't take long. I'll say I was really looking hard at that. Like, how many unique things do we want for each bot? How deep do we want that uniqueness to go? Like where it's at right now, you still find yourself like in some type of a direction of what you think you need to do, and then out of the blue you're like, I could have just busted through that wall, or I could have just, and those things are catching you still, even with the streamlined bots. And I love that, because that's what I didn't want to lose from like the golden bones, oh my goodness, I've got 16 skills, that can do 23 different things. This we're purposely trying to streamline it, but not lose the essence of what is so cool about that. I think of Transmitter as one of the ones for like if you're going up against Biodefense, which is heavy on guards. Transmitter is basically a piece of like junk satellite stuff put together, and it like the guards don't even recognize it as a threat whatsoever. So it can walk around in the halls and not trip any type of alert or alarms or threat from just standing around. Like the awareness level of the guards is 0 when he's walking around there. But the minute he does something that's off kilter, it will still trigger. So anyway.
So one thing I want to mention as we approach, we're already approaching 175.
Oh, that's
awesome.
Wow.
I just want to mention we do have infinite stretch goals on this campaign. So we have a stretch goal at every 20. I shouldn't say infinite because at some point we'll go broke probably. But we have stretch goals that unlock every 25K, and that's going to be a thing for the whole campaign. So you may need to give Heather, our graphic designer, some grace. If we cruise past a funding level that we expect, it may take us a little bit to get them loaded in. But know that we have something kind of similar to what we did for Ankar's Plunder, if you followed that campaign, lined up toward the end of this campaign, where you're going to be unlocking more and more stuff. So please continue to share this campaign, and please continue to get excited, because those are going to continue to unlock quick, I think, each and every day.
We aren't putting a cap on it, so like it could be a 30 card pack by the end of the campaign, 20 30 card pack, which would be awesome to add that to the base game for backers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so it's 174 almost already. We're 15 seconds behind, by the way, on what we can see on our screen versus what you're seeing. So give us grace if we're a little bit off. There we just crossed 174 already. We're gonna break this any second.
All right, how long is projected playtime versus how long is playtesting taking right now, and what is the setup time?
Are you trying to imply that our playtimes on our boxes are not accurate? Because that would be true.
That would be true. No. Come on, man.
Anytime I can roast this guy in front of all of you, I love it.
No, actually, the video that has us two going through a first floor, while we were pretty focused on our objective, I would say, and we clipped along in terms of making decisions, I felt we were trying to simulate a game where we were quite familiar with our bots and quite familiar with the strategies that we would want to, or at least enter into the floor with. But that being said, like, we wrapped it up in what? How long did it?
I think the video itself is
25 minutes.
I think the video itself is like 42 minutes, something like that. We explained a lot of things to the camera. Like it. So yeah, we're saying 45 minutes per player on average. Again, depending on how long you linger on a floor. If you try and clear an entire floor, get every terminal, every crate, every whatever, to gain a lot of power for your bot, it may go a little bit longer. But at the same time, typically if you're doing that, your threat meter is going to continue to climb. That degradation of the burn cycle forces you to get a move on. And really the whole point, not the whole point, but a big part of this game was we wanted some of the asymmetry that everybody loves from Bones and Cloudspire. We wanted some of the squad tactics that everybody loves from Hoplo and from Bones to a degree. But we wanted to offer kind of a streamlined version of that. So that 45 minutes per player is really like, it's sitting pretty accurate right now, I would say. Again, as with all our games, the more familiar you are with it, the faster it's going to go, and there's a lot going on. So so take that for what it's worth. But it's limited to 3 floors, and it's our only game with a real, true kind of timer mechanic of any kind.
Yeah.
And that forces the end of the game, whether you like it or not.
It's true. I would actually say that it even, clearly with a 4-player game and a control module, that threat is moving.
Mm-hmm.
And while you do have ways to mitigate, bring it back down, that timer is moving fast. And so, yes, you're adding 2 more or 3 more players to the mix, but the burn cycle is also shortening. After the start of each recycle, then it starts to shorten, and so turns kind of get faster, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
The play moves pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about the setup time for this.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that.
Yeah. So every floor is anywhere from 7 to 9 rooms. I think right now is what this one is. We were testing a mat that was much bigger than this to start. The base floor was, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more rows deep that way. It was a huge building. Yeah. And what we found in playtesting was that even if you had picked a couple objectives, your entire team would get in and they would touch maybe only a quarter of the rooms that were offered in that floor. And while that's cool, replayability, maybe you enter from a different side, we found that we could do that still within this and allow those rooms to then become much more varied on the rest of the floors, rather than having to use the same rooms in just a different configuration on every floor. We were able to leave a couple really cool rooms off of this and then have a very different feel on floor 2 and 3. So setup time is literally placing these down on your map per the layout,
right,
and then you've got your bot mat that's kind of already set, short of the pegs that we have in there right now, the network mat, sorry, and then you have the 5 or up to player count.
Yep, any of these red icons that have a terminal. So those always have a terminal, no matter what. You will encounter, and I don't know if we have any on this mat at all. Any of the white? Do we have any white terminals?
No, it's the terminals all changed to they're all auto-loaded in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
3 minutes, 5 minutes.
It's pretty quick. Yeah, it's pretty quick. We should also show you too, because we haven't shown. This is not in any of the videos. The bot mats have changed a little bit as well. So we're still in the overhead cam. I hope. I don't know where the best place to show this is. I'll put it like this. So we have made this slot here for the bot much larger, and therefore can fit. So these are the bot cards now, and so you get all of their abilities. It's really, really easy to read at a glance. You see all their abilities really simply, and then again, that just slots in, and
your card's upside down.
My card's upside down?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm sorry. There we go.
Thanks, man.
That makes sense because this is right side up to me. Yeah. This live stream thing, I'm still learning. So, except it would actually be sitting flat, like so.
And not on the mat.
And not on the mat, yeah.
You
Anyway, you get the idea. So setting up your character is really simple. You're going to give yourself 10 power right out of the gate every time.
And that's it. That is your character. So it's, you're responsible for knowing these 4 different things that are unique to your character. But then how those relate to your dice and what levels of upgrade that you want, that's where the game kind of shines. So you've got your symbols that you're contributing to the group over here, your action symbols, and then this is just telling you your maxes on your action dice. So and the neoprene, as you can see, the neoprene grabs that card. And it's just really cool. It keeps it in place so you can move your mat all around, and it's not shifting that around. So yeah.
All right. Question: how does campaign mode work? Does campaign mode work? Is there campaign mode, Josh?
Well, okay. So yes, the way you can play the game where you're gonna just play a corporation. So you could say, all right, I want to come at this solo. I want to come at this with someone else as a co-op. And I'm just going to play through and take out Need Chain, and I'm done. And that game will take us X amount of time, 2.5 hours or whatever. But if you want to then string that on and fight through all 3 corporations, or if you get Biodefend, all 4, we have a really unique piece to that. And so yes, there is a campaign mode. It involves actually shuffling the bots that you're not using into a bag, and then you're drawing out, and you're going to actually be encountering bots that are being held captive within the game, within the rooms. And you may or may not come across them. And if you do, then you have this kind of a tough decision of, do we repair the bot? Do we free it? Do we bring it along with us? Which at that point, it's not really serving you as another team member yet. It's almost just like another control module where you're kind of needing to expend AP to move this thing to the exit and get it through the game. And if you can finish the game with that bot, now you have access to a new bot for the next corporation, which is huge because, as I mentioned, like if you're going up against Biodefend and you save transmitter, like that's going to change your game. So you really have to kind of assess where you're at with that, decide if you're going to let someone go, and it may not be the only opportunity, but you have to kind of factor that in. The other thing is that on the back of the CEO chip itself, when you take out Need Chain, when you take out Bozefris, there is a very unique action that's on the back side of his chip, and that stands for this unique piece of AI code that you're after. That's the whole reason that you're taking out this corporation, is to gain some of that AI code back. And so that's going to allow you a very special thing to do within your burn cycle in future attempts on the other campaigns, or I'm sorry, on the other corporations. So yeah, there's definitely a connected piece to that. Yeah. How far we go with that, we'll probably get into a little bit more in some of the spotlights throughout the campaign. But yeah, that's just a little piece, or a short answer to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think if there was I feel like I had one other thing that I wanted us to make sure we touched on.
Yeah.
But I am blanking on it, so we're not going to touch on it.
Well, fine.
Right now. Will the room mats have numbers on them to quickly identify which room is which?
That's a good suggestion. Right now we have every room is labeled, like right when you come in the door, it says warehouse or it says mechanical. Again, this is not final, so we'll look at that.
Adam immediately pointed to the restroom.
The restroom is labeled very clearly. But yeah, so like whether or not that turns into a number, we do like the fact that the names are on there of the rooms, just because within the objectives sometimes it will call out certain types of rooms, or it might refer to a room that specifically. So yes, there will be a way to identify them very clearly. Whether that's a number or a name or both, we'll wait to see.
Are we missing? Where are we? Do we have more questions? Okay. What are some ways the game could be expanded in the future? New bots, new corporations? That's a huge open question right now.
It is. It's exciting because I feel like there's a lot of space for this game to grow. You'll notice. I don't know if we have it on that. Can you grab that threat card? So we started adding an actual location to Need Chain. This is hinting at the fact that this is one place where Need Chain exists. We're talking through whether we have, and how extensive we go with that, in terms of whether there's potentially other CEOs that are running the other locations for Need Chain, but it allows us to play with, because again, Need Chain has a very specific feel to how its threat affects you, as does Solida and the other corporations. So there's still a lot of room within that to change up the threat card to something, but have it still feel Need Chain. So just know we're toying with that. We're also looking at the security detail is a huge one for us, where I think we have a lot of room to grow.
Yep.
The security detail is detached from the actual corporation. They're hiring a security detail. And so whether you're playing it first, second, third time, if you draw a new or a different type of security detail, it will dictate whether you have one level 2 guard on the first floor that you're just like running from, or whether it's one that spans out, like that security detail, that captain will define, well, this one uses all 3 starting locations for the first floor, but all tier 1 guards. So that kind of a thing is something that we have a lot of room to grow in. Right now we have 4 that we're starting with for security detail. And then, of course, new bots. We have a lot of ideas there, and ones that are kind of in the second tier development and testing phases.
I think that's also a good a good time to maybe talk about. I mean, again, so you've got randomly drawn security details. Yep. You've got randomly drawn objectives that are corporation specific. You've got randomly drawn guards on each floor of the building that you're on.
With very different patrol routes.
Exactly. You've got randomly drawn keypad cards for every lock in the game, and there's a lot of these that change things up. So I know one of the early questions that I saw online anyway was like, are we going to be able to solve these corporations it's just done, and that's it? Like, is one corporation akin to one Cloudspire scenario, for example? Sure. And there's so many different random elements that change this game. I mean, just speaking from experience, so we filmed. There's that gameplay video that you can watch on the Kickstarter page. Now,
I don't think we posted the one before.
No, we didn't.
Right? Okay.
So the one that we posted was the second one that we filmed, because we had a few issues with the first filming. But I can tell you the results were very different, and that was largely because of different objectives. The first game we played, and we played it poorly, let me assure you, I forgot about my innate ability a couple times, which would have saved us in major ways. But
we chose one where we had to get to this spot in the very corner, and this spot over there, and we had to get there, I think, even at the same time.
Right.
And so you're sitting around ready at this place, and I'm not even close, and it was just like we burned through our threat, like right up to 20, something like that, and we're like, okay, we got it done, but it was
we were in bad shape. Yeah, we were in very very bad shape.
Yeah, I mean, like the objectives change everything about how you approach a floor that is set. So, yes, in the future, might we change up or give different layouts to a need chain floor to serve as like a different division of the company? That's entirely possible, and stuff we're already discussing. But as it stands right now, it is absolutely not needed in terms of the amount of gameplay.
Right,
going through the same corporation from start to finish, it's going to be a completely different game every time.
And again, the objective deck is unique per corporation, and I think all we've shown so far has been need chain. But again, you're going to have a completely separate stack of potential objectives for each corporation. So, and again, they're if you think of that kind of like a Tyrant for Too Many Bones, but a lot more advanced in terms of not necessarily advanced, changes up the game in a much more significant way than just drawing a Tyrant encounter, would in Too Many Bones. So
it would be fair to say that each time you play is not a scenario, it's more of a completely one-off, different kind of game every time you sit down and play them, right?
I would absolutely say that.
Yep.
So a couple of people are asking, will there ever be links between your games? What about a Too Many Bones Burncycle crossover?
I was asked for Cloudspire too.
So we have been fairly strict and staunch in saying that no, we are not interested in crossovers between our games, and here's the reason why. So Too Many Bones is our most popular property by a fairly significant margin. It's the franchise that made this company in many ways, and we love Too Many Bones. We don't. We're not afraid to say that, and we're not like bored with it. But we want to do things that inspire us creatively. We want to do things that are new and fresh and keep us interested in getting back to the table to do new designs. And we don't want to just become the Too Many Bones company. We don't want to just become the Hoplomachus company or the Cloudspire company or whatever, whatever. If we ever invent the franchise that gets as big as Bones, we'll see. we don't want that to kind of pigeonhole us. We want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're constantly throwing out new ideas, and that it's not always like, oh, well, here's their Too Many Bones tie-in, because Too Many Bones
is the thing that
is-
carries them.
yeah,
Whatever,
like here's where they're gonna make all their money is
Yeah.
oh they added a gear lock bot, a spider bot from Tink or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's also just it's really clear when we're developing like Cloudspire or Burncycle, like how strong a theme they are and how like assuredly they can stand on their own. So they certainly don't need bones. It would be fun. It would be fun to toy with that stuff, and we've talked about it with Cloudspire as just like a what if, but it's not something that we're really interested in actually doing, I think, at this point. So yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Ryan Howard, our author, has been working very, very hard at, making sure the lore is exactly how we envision it.
Yeah.
And they're just very, very different worlds altogether. So, it's just...
But like we tie in, the Gearlock Child, like who knows what? Like there's certain appearances of things that we'll do, and we certainly play in like our humor. We've played off different games before.
Yeah,
Like,
I will say just to speak to the writing and kind of the tone of this game a little bit. You kind of see it in the intro of the story trailer if you've watched that. But like, so Too Many Bones is, I don't even know how to describe the tone of Too Many Bones.
Right.
Goofy, fourth wall breaking, dad joke, referential, sometimes deathly serious. I don't know how we got.
Yeah,
away
you're
with
not
that.
just walking through Uncanny Valley. You're like camping. Right
I don't
in
even.
the
Yeah,
valley.
I don't even know how we get away with some of the stuff we do in Bones. But like then Cloudspire was like very. It's not really fantasy. It's a little bit fantasy, but like it's very straight laced in terms of its theme. Like it's there's not really many jokes or references or anything in Cloudspire. Like it is a very serious, self-contained world.
Mm-hmm.
With Burncycle, we are getting back a little bit to the goofiness. You'll see, I think a couple of the objectives, if you check out like Terminate the Terminals, you'll see where some of the flavor in this game is going a little bit. We're getting back to some of that kind of sarcastic, dad jokey son nature, that kind of thing. I don't know.
I posed it to Josh. This is a blast from the past, which will date me terribly, but like one of my favorite games to play through as a kid on the PC was Star Control. Space Quest or Star Control? Both of them actually. But Roger Wilco was the guy, and it was just satirical narration and like jokes around every corner, painful jokes around every corner. But like, yeah, we're not going to go that far with it by any means. But yeah.
We're goofy dudes.
We are.
Ryan, who's in the room right over here that you can't see, he's a goofy dude. He has helped punch up before he was even full time writing like all the Cloudspire stuff. He helped punch up a bunch of Bones encounters and Bones flavor text and stuff that we as a team had worked on prior. And so like that's who we are as people. And so it's hard to not infuse our games with that dry sense of humor.
Yep.
So anyway.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions we got here? Let's see. Are you happy with how the network game works together with the main game, or do you feel like it needs improvement?
Well, this is again. So most of you probably do know how we work, and how at what level when we launch something on Kickstarter, whether or not it looks finished. There is still a lot of development that goes on throughout the Kickstarter and after. And so, like, definitely the bones of, no
Good
pun
one.
intended, of the network are working really well. Like, I like the visual distancing from the actual game mat that happens there. We still want to make sure it's tied in. We certainly don't want it to feel mini-game-esque. We want it to have a substantial influence over the board and what you're doing there, and we definitely can do that through the access points. So the access points are the meaningful places where either the IPs have to stop and then get to do something that's rewarding, because as you progress around the network or into deeper networks, you're able to reach those, but the pings are doing the same. So the CEO's pings are kind of searching for you, and when they hit those access points, they trigger those types of meaningful things. And one thing that it has to trigger is the threat level. But we are also looking at how those could potentially tie back to the board, just to bring you a little, to connect it more. I think that there is room to connect it more, absolutely. I think that right now, with the current wireless access cards, they're extremely punitive. And I, like, some of that was intentional, some of it was unintentional.
We don't design that way.
Well, no, but like, I
do. I absolutely, my Cloudspire scenario.
I flipped over a card and I was like, oh yeah, this one isn't one I meant to put on there. And I flipped over the next one and it got worse. And then I flipped over the next one, I'm like, okay, I did something wrong here. But that's to say, so you're not going to have to hand over like 8 AP dice or action dice in order to get on the wireless network. We're actually leaning toward more beneficial on average than punitive for the wireless access deck. We want you getting on the network because it's one of the easiest things to do when you're in that particular spot of not wanting to move. And that happens a lot in the game. Like, it's a timing game, so you want to kind of wait. And so, like, there has to be a good reason and incentive to go to the network. So we're working through that. I do think it can be tied a little better. That's exciting though, because I see the structure and it's working really well. So
I think one of the things that we're realizing the more we play the game is just that we want to make everything feel more significant in general. You know, we've talked about some of the bots right now have skills that, like, again, they were designed in the very early iteration of the game, and we haven't come back for another revision on them yet. But we're finding that it's way more fun to have a really strong bot skill, and if that means we need to make the guards way scarier to help compensate for that really strong bot skill, like, that's what we want to do. So same thing with the network. I think we've got a really, really good structure here for it. We want to make sure that every time you're doing something on there, though, like, it feels more significant. And I think, as we continue to refine the game and develop more and more, that's going to come together. And making sure there's a cool interaction between the map and the physical world and that network is a balance that I'm excited for us to really continue to refine.
I was just going to say, I mean, one of the things that jumped out at me from the question was they called it a network game. I think it's important to emphasize that it's not a mini game of any sort. It's what I see it as is, you've got your things that you have to manage here, but you also have like another map, so to speak, over there, and you're constantly hopping back and forth. I know that some of the playthroughs that are being shown or will be shown throughout the campaign are probably a little less interactivity on the network. I think that the network is a bigger contributor mid to late game. Would that be a fair statement?
Depending on the corporation, to be honest. So Need Chain, you don't really need to interact with it. But if you manage to keep your threat low,
that's one of the ways you keep your threat low, and that's when we forgot on the first game. It was like, well, the network is where you're able to actually decrease your threat pretty, like, assuredly. If you get to that access point, you can choose that. So, like, making those rewards even more beneficial, I think, and giving you reason to go there. The tie-in with the network is pretty significant already, just from the respect of you've got a Burncycle that's helping you move through the network, and every single position that you move, you have to give up that action. So, like, it should be rewarding to move, but also you should feel it in the Burncycle. So we'll get the balance on that right. But yeah, definitely a good question.
Right, absolutely.
All right, what do we got?
Scroll up. All right, in one of your earlier video segments, you were discussing the size of the chips. What size did you decide on?
Oh, good question. Okay, so I was fascinated with these, like, little tiny. They have a metal insert in them. They're not 11.5 gram, but they are weighted. It's a weighted chip, but it's like 3/4 the size of a poker chip. And I was thinking that it would be nice to have those just taking up less space on each of the spaces when you place it down. However, like, one of the main benefits to chips is that they stack so well, and, like, it's so easy, and we do want to move around the board and even onto those spaces that have a terminal chip or an equipment chip or chest or cache. So, like, we were downsizing certain tokens, even looking at the Burncycle and allowing those to be downsized. as smaller tokens. But the reality is that this isn't really any cheaper just because it's not a standard size, and so the cost on this is pretty close to the same. And I mean, heavy weighted chips are just fun to play with, and so there's a number of reasons. Also, like the awareness tokens. The awareness tokens were set to be smaller so that they could drop and they wouldn't cover up quite as much artwork. But the reality is that when you're moving your bot around, whether we have them underneath or off to the side, it's just kind of a nice feel to have that one be dropped, you know, and like it having. I don't want a chip to ever be on top of that's not. Where you're, you know, the stack is uneven. So,
It's worth noting that
full-size chips is where we're at.
Our earlier prototypes were larger, so to use that full-size chip ended up taking quite a bit of real estate on the game table.
That's true.
So after playtesting and realizing that the board actually can be smaller, suddenly the larger chips became a very, very...
No, that's a good point.
Yes.
Yep.
Very good point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's see. We've got how strong is the game as a solo experience? It's pretty bad. Like, really, pretty bad.
We don't like solo
Yeah,
games.
we've never been. So next question.
Next question.
Yeah.
No.
There are a few specific solo rules that we haven't really touched on yet. You are the most equipped to talk about, and we'll probably do a spotlight on this.
Yeah, we will do a spotlight on this because it's important that we show, you know, how the game is shaping up from a solo standpoint. It's obviously something that we're coming at from the start in our design, but one of the things that I always want to do is tie things as much thematically as much as possible to the game. So when you're functioning with just a control module and a single bot, one of the things that I really want to be able to do there is allow you to play through a floor and at certain key points swap out, swap the roles of those two bots so that the two bots that you choose matter and actually matter a little bit more from side to side, whether you're the control module or whether you're playing, you know, and controlling the one actual bot. So finding the right times to allow that, whether it's if you clear a floor, then you're able, like as you're in the elevators going to the next one, you can switch out that command module and like take over for the other bot, because you know in floor 2 you're heading into higher level guards, which the other one might perform better on. Like that's the kind of decision that I want to be looking at. I just want to make sure that it's not problematic for other reasons. But I'm pretty confident that it's like the objectives are planned around needing either a single bot or two bots to pull them off. You can easily do that with a control module and a single bot. However, if you lose one of those two, the control module, if you lose it, the game's over. But if you lose your other bot, we need to have there be a good way of either getting your control module over there to repair or potentially finishing the game with that bot. That's there in the other versions of playing too, is that if certain players lose their bot, you can play as the control module, but at some point you're gonna, you know, the threat is gonna just completely overtake you. So we will touch on it more later in the campaign. It's absolutely something that we're thinking through. We just don't have an actual, you know, like a recorded play yet. And there's a couple key things that we want to make sure we get right before we say definitively how it's going to work.
Yeah.
So.
Bottom line, though, again, if you know us, you know that we put a ton of emphasis and importance on solo play. It's no different in this game whatsoever, and it's going to be. I am very thankful. It's going to be much easier to implement than all of those Cloud Spire scenarios, which were so prescribed. It's nice to get a little bit of a break from that and have no, here's how you play this game in solo mode, as opposed to all these a completely different rule set and the whole thing. So
that's actually a good point. I would like to get this to the point where we're not having to do any type of solo objective cards. That we're doing the objectives in a smart enough way that it's taking into account all the bots that are coming in and the player counts that are coming to the game. So I think that there's absolute ways with this game to do that. And so yeah, that's what we'll be sharing that as we figure some of that out even during the campaign.
Yeah. Talk about the bots. How are they different? What are they? How different are they? How unique are they?
Oh man, yeah.
We already touched up on this a little bit earlier.
We did,
and we can share a little bit more.
Yeah. So, what I will say to not like re-say anything that we've already said. The bots themselves on the front side have 4 different skills that 3 of which that you can unlock. These are not linear. They're not planned to be linear. There are things that you can like say, all right, for this situation, I think it's best that I build out in this direction. You also then have limits to your action dice. So you have a numbered limit that is like the top number here is 5 out of 10. That means that on any given round or within any given turn cycle, you're earning a certain amount of power. That power can always go up to 10. But then at the start of your turn, depending on that number, you have to spend down to that or you're going to lose it. So you have to reroute that power into something, whether it's a new skill or whether it's upgraded action dice. All of those things are options. But that starts to really differentiate the bots. What that max is, how many advanced dice, how many elite dice they can use, and oftentimes that will correlate to the skills that we know that you're going to be trying to use, in relation to those action dice. And on top of that, you have a flip side to each bot as well, which is going to serve as if they're serving as the control module. This is now what you're referencing. So not only is there uniqueness within the bots as a played bot like per person, but as a control module, this bot is contributing certain group benefits to the team that can be unlocked, but it's a group unlock. So it's something that one of us would have to decide to unlock on the control module mat on our turn. Like it's kind of a precious and a tough decision to whether you improve your bot or help the team.
Right.
And then the biggest one.
So and this is something. So we don't even have this on the other side of these other ones because this is actually something we came up with in like the last week and a half roughly. The control module changes how your burn cycle works in pretty significant ways. So you can see on transmitter, you've got a max of 5 slots in the burn cycle. There will be other control modules that may only have a max of 4.
Yep.
Which makes the game a lot tougher. Which is speaking to the actual slots you have available for your turn. With transmitter, 3 of them start open at the beginning of the game. So again, we can play with that. There may be some that only start with 2. There may be some that start with 4 or all 5. And then to unlock more, it costs 4 power and 5 power respectively to open that 4th and 5th slot. If any of these green slots happen to get frozen or removed completely, it costs 3 to bring it back. So we're going to play with that mechanic a lot. And so beyond just your own bots that you're controlling personally, the bot that you choose to take as your control module or randomly draw
really matters
to take as your control module. We want that to add a significant degree of change to the game. But again, all of these things, I almost look at all of those types of things as the types of modifiers you may be familiar with from a typical Cloudspire scenario, like the little scenario-specific rule that like kind of changes everything, or the way that an encounter card will say like you can only do X, or you have to do X first, or that kind of thing. Like I kind of look at the way that the control modules change the game up in a similar way, where suddenly it's like, oh, now my tried and true strategy needs to adjust a little bit because I have to account for this benefit or this.
One of the things that's so cool about Bones is that you feel like you're making consequential decisions every minute. Like every time you get a skill, every time you make a decision or a move on on the battle mat. Every time you choose an encounter choice, it matters. We're definitely going for that here, and it's just like revealed in a different way. So you've got your bots, but now you have this control module that's contributing this, which now when we draw our objective cards, we have to factor in that our Burncycle is starting at only 3 or as many as 3, and like that potentially affects which objective card we pick. Like all of that is very connected and meaningful all throughout. So yeah. That's a little bit on the differentiation between the bots. We didn't even talk about the different action types that they contribute, which in our first game, that was another reason. We loaded up with 2 bots and even a control module that wasn't really supporting or helping in that area, and we were flooded with tech and had very little physical tokens to move around the board, and so even
utility.
I mean, like utility.
It was just tech.
It was tech.
Just tech all
and
over
so,
the place.
Yeah, just not really factoring that in or not realizing it till it was too late was kind of a problem.
yeah, that was rough. Yeah. That was rough. How is it 2 players? We've actually primarily played it at 2 players, and it's phenomenal. I think it works great as a 2-player game. The balance between, again, 1 to 4 player to keep that difficulty smooth is something that we feel really, really good about now because of the way that threat meter works. The more players you have, the faster and more significant the jumps are in your threat meter. So even though you have more guys, running around the board, they're going to get spotted more often, they're going to trip alarms more often, and then when you do your standard threat meter increase due to refreshing the Burncycle, it's going to climb faster because that's based on your party size, basically. So,
basically 5. If it's a full party of 4 players plus a control module, it's 5 threat that you're jumping up, and not many of those you can jump up 5 and not trip something.
Right.
So,
Yep.
Yeah, it feels like when you increase in player count to 3 and then even 4, you've got probably some more activity going on the network, partly because you've got your bots out here, but you have to. Anyways, so it is a different game from 2 to 3 to 4 players.
Yep.
But it's very, very cool.
And at least for right now, we should also note that like your hot swap stack, that if you watch the playthrough video, you draw your Burncycle and then you draw 3 additional chips that get to be used in for unlocking doors, for other purposes, can be swapped in and out of the Burncycle. That number is static for all player counts right now, and those chips are super precious. So in a 4-player game, suddenly all 4 of you are fighting over like what to do with those and use them, and not allow yourself to suddenly get stuck in a hallway, unable to engage with the keypad because this guy right here used it to unlock his crate and get a cool piece of equipment. So now you're stuck. So anyway, we feel really good about all player counts right now. There may be a handful of things we do to adjust that to make sure that it's fully smooth, but right now, from 1 to 4, we feel really good about how that all scales. Is it possible to create a random map and play a quick homebrew one-off? There's no system in place right now for creating a random map, though I fully anticipate plenty of people will try out building some different maps.
One of the things that we're toying with right now is how we want to handle the guard starting locations. So right now they're very they're printed right on the actual building mat. So you've got a bunch of different 1s, 2s, and 3s, and then as you build your floor, it covers up certain ones, and so that you're in the end you're left with a composition of a 1, a 2, and a 3 starting location. So if you move these around, you're going to uncover different ones, and it gives us a lot of versatility. While the reason I designed it this way right now, at least, was to cut down on setup time. I just wanted to have those, and so that you looked at the picture, you put the mats down, and they were set for you. You didn't have to have other little tokens and try to figure out the squares to place those on. I think that it will probably stay this way, but we'll see. But yeah, that actually just answers or speaks to, you could come up with your own combinations as long as you have a 1, 2, and a 3, and like doors. I mean, yes, you could come up with a homebrew pretty easily in this regard.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we are still looking at the possibility of, like, with each corporation doing a three different variants of the first floor. They use the same rooms, but like just like now the elevator is like this, and another room is rotated and one is shifted, that kind of thing. We don't know if that will be significant enough that it will be something that matters and is worth doing, but we're looking at all those types of things. We want to make sure that we give you plenty of interest in the maps that you're playing at all times. Like that's a big thing. But there's so much randomization in the game that it's almost less about the maps and more about your objectives, about your guards, about your bot composition and that kind of thing. That kind of stuff makes tackling, the same map layout a completely different and unique experience every single time. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, smoothness and like quick setup time and making this a different experience than Bones and Cloudspire and those types of things is really important to us with this game. We wanna let this game be what it is best designed to be, and right now the fact that it is a lot quicker to play and learn and engage with is a really, really strong point for it, in my opinion.
The elegance with this is just like in how it's contained. There's a lot that can happen. Similar to the battle mat, like when you play Bones, you start to realize that this tiny little battle mat is jam-packed with strategy. Like that is here in this, and we can actually display 3 or 4 different corporations all on this one mat, and it's really fun to see that come alive.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel the map design and art blends and works with the chips?
So we will be doing a spotlight on this. I love the question. During the campaign, that we break down and get into a little bit more of like where we're headed with the room art. We have a lot of room art to show actually, and
so this is all placeholder. Again, if you're joining us late or you haven't heard us say that, everything on this map is 100% placeholder. And I mean, even the Burncycle mat has already changed a little bit. The art hasn't necessarily changed, but these 5 slots, which you may or may not be able to see on camera, have moved underneath the network rather than alongside the network.
The idea is that the network mat could exist and kind of be squared off with this mat here, with the Burncycle easily accessible from as many places as possible, rather than having it be way out on the wings where someone is reaching across the table for it. We're just trying to factor in a lot of those things and like what areas of these different game pieces are the most accessed, and how do we make them easily reachable. All of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the?
Yeah, so how does it blend? Will it blend? Will it blend? Have we tried? I have a Vitamix at home.
It's interesting. I started with a very retro sci-fi direction with this game as far as what I wanted it to feel like. I downloaded found a whole bunch of inspiration from a lot of old school artwork from book covers and stuff like that. It very polarizing, very dark line, stark contrast.
Yeah, I think Isaac Asimov, Philip K. Dick, the types of cover art you would see when you were in middle school in the library.
Yeah, I was really drawn.
That's when I was in middle school in the library.
I was really drawn to that. But what's interesting is as the game developed and we tried to kind of unpack that and what it would look like, I found myself finding further and further examples of art that drew me in, and while the stark colors were there, it started to morph, and it became a little bit more current than I was imagining it would have been. And so there's a little bit of cyberpunk mixed in with the splashes of color now, and there's and that's something I didn't think I was headed for or would like, but it's definitely taken on a new feel. That's credit to Anthony. I love where he's headed with it. I love where the bots. I mean, the last bot, the one that we just, one of the newest pieces of art that I've seen was the one that he did for the, I think it's not How to Play. One of the, it's Crash, and he's bursting through a wall. It's on
Stretch
the campaign.
goals.
Stretch goals.
It's a stretch
and
goal.
that image really was okay, this is feeling like graphic novel-esque and very I like the treatment on this. So anyway, it's taken a real interesting journey throughout. I think we're probably going to end up somewhere in the middle of all of it, but it's going to be a unique place, and I hope we keep a real uniqueness to it. The orange has been a real positive. I think a lot of people reacted really well to the cover of the box, and so we'll kind of keep that going throughout the thing. But we're going to share room art, and you'll see the matching. It matches up to what you're seeing already as far as what Anthony's putting out there, and it is much more current. And I will speak to this. A couple people have said, this is feeling like the game has a bit of old and a bit of new, and like it doesn't know where or what is it, like where, like how is it placed. Well, the fact is that the world was destroyed and then it was rebuilt. The rebuilding doesn't mean that like there isn't a kind of a destroyed skeleton underneath. So there's still rubble. There's still areas that haven't been fully rebuilt or have been degraded again since the corporations came about. So yeah, like we're uncovering that in the lore, and you'll see that like it may appear pristine in certain areas, but there's a lot going on underneath that is not so pretty. So yeah.
Another question. Well, there we go. Yeah. Are there talks of some kind of build-a-bot mode similar to Splice and Dice for building custom play characters as opposed to enemies? Oh, Lord. Can we...
Let's table that one for now.
So let's see. Splice and Dice came out, 3 years after Bones originally debuted?
We'll answer that in.
Give us 3 years, and we'll consider it. No plans for that right now. But it's cool. I mean, I know everybody wants to build a gear lock, which just gives me an ulcer. But
yeah, I mean that stuff's fun. We got to let the game, become what it needs to be, and then we'll start to, we love to dabble. So yes,
exactly.
It's something.
Is Biodefense essential for campaign mode?
No, it is not essential for campaign mode. It will add to campaign mode. It gives you, it's going to make it harder, actually, because now you have to get that fourth corporation taken care of in order to kind of complete campaign mode. And every one that you do is getting harder. One of the things we're toying with is that on the security detail that you face, that's randomly drawn at the start of each game. So you could face the same security detail 2 times in a row, but with a new corporation. If that happens, that security detail has wisened up to you, and there's I would like to have that be something that is a little bit harder because you're facing them specifically again. So they're kind of coming back with some new stuff. So
it's like not allowing you to spam the same move in a fighting game.
Basically, yep. So that is, full disclosure, that hasn't been a lot of my attention right now. So we'll get there, and we'll share it as we get there. But I have a lot of interesting pieces that I want to build into the captains specifically.
With the way we develop, stuff is evolving every day. I mentioned the whole idea of having the Burncycle be on the flip side of the,
we were
the bot cards.
Should we do that with pegs on the Burncycle? And then it was like, no.
Exactly. So again, that idea, which we love and I think massively benefits the game, is less than 2 weeks old. But at some point we have to hit pause and put together this crazy campaign and get it launched. And then we're going to dive back in with a bunch of the cool ideas that we've got going. So we have so much more to share with you. Again, even our prototypes that we have here are already out of date to a degree. There's plenty more to come, and as we feel confident about some of these ideas and able to speak to them in a concrete fashion, they will appear in spotlights, or they'll appear in our monthly updates that happen after the campaign. All that kind of stuff. You're gonna we tend to launch games on Kickstarter a little bit earlier than a lot of companies do in terms of where they're at in development. We get criticized for that sometimes. We sometimes fairly. Other times we love the fact that we get to kind of work on this game right alongside the feedback that we're receiving from you as backers. We try to use Kickstarter not just as a glorified pre-order system. We really try to use it to tap into the community and learn from that and make our games better because of it.
Especially when we're hearing a reoccurring question. If people see what we're presenting and are like, but how are you handling this? And if that comes in repeatedly, it like really sheds a spotlight on it for us, and it's like, yeah, well, you know what, we need to address that or tighten it up. And it's not that we wouldn't get there in some fashion on our own. Like we're not saying that we need you to help us build this game. Like we're not wanting to put that on you, but we're definitely in a standpoint where we love the input that our backers give. Like it has benefited us every time. So like I wear that as a feather in our cap rather than you're coming to Kickstarter too early. Like it's intentional at this point. We don't need to. Before we were like, we got to get a game. We got to get a game on Kickstarter.
We're on the brink of bankruptcy.
Yeah, not that, but
about to go under.
We have a schedule to keep, and now it's just more like, this is the right time to present the idea. And let people in on it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We did just pass another stretch goal. I mean, I think it's probably a couple minutes ago already, but we're at 2:26.
Oh, that's
8 is what I see on my screen, which may be a couple seconds behind.
2:27.
2:27. There it goes. Yeah. So again,
wow.
As we mentioned, talking about how we engage with Kickstarter, we also just again want to say thank you to all of you who have showed up here this morning to back a new unproven IP. It's always a scary thing launching that into the world, and we can't say thank you enough times. We really appreciate each and every one of you. People want to know more about what Biodefense adds and what exactly is going to be in the lore recruitment pack, ? It's not a question mark, that's a statement.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid I can't answer that.
So the lore recruitment pack has also been a point of debate. And there will be one item there that we won't build into the value of it because it's still being debated on whether or not it should be added. It will be something that if we add it, it will be above and beyond what we feel the value is of the package in and of itself. So we'll leave that. There's a little bit of a mystery there on one aspect, but what it contains is short stories of each of the bots, or sometimes groups of bots doing heists. We've shared one online, and kind of the direction we're heading with those. I think we shared a full on.
Yeah, I think it's on our blog. If you go to our website and check the blog, there is one. I think for Fiction Friday Friday, Ryan, or 2 Fridays ago rather.
Primarily, this is a way, similar to our logbooks. It's a way of so much of our art that Anthony does ends up on this tiny little chip, and it's hard to see that being the only place. Now it shows up in our rule books and stuff like that, but the best way for us to show off that art, we feel, is on a full page spread or in amidst lore and story. So that will be part of this. It's going to be themed as a portfolio that a new bot would be given if they're a new recruit would be given if they're trying to join up to the 404th. So it's dossiers on the CEOs, and it's a lot of the art and write-ups on each of the bots that are already part of the 404th. So we're going to do that in a real creative way that feels like it's something that you were handed when you joined on. But we're toying with a couple other things. There's a hint at that on the box itself, and
because there's no true. I mean, there's maps in this game, which will come in a separate little booklet aside from the rule book, but there's not this bevy of massive scenarios and solo campaign and co-op campaign the way that there is in Cloudspire. So I think this one, not in terms of a leather flame-singed book, we're not doing that because that doesn't make any sense in this universe, but it's more along the lines of the TMB Liberation logbooks in terms of something that we want to make look like is from the world of this game. Really helps bring you that last step of the way all the way into this retro futuristic world, as opposed to the Cloudspire book, which was really more of a standard just deluxe scenario book. That was slick and gorgeous and beautiful, but not necessarily meant to look like an in-world artifact. So that's the direction we're taking this particular lore pack. So
Yep, that's true. And I think we're I'm of the mindset with lore, especially on the Kickstarter level. It's something that of all the things that I'm willing to push the furthest, it's one of those aspects that has a place as extreme value. The lore book is a great example. The logbook, the Liberation logbook was was a loss leader for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it was definitely a product that we weren't creating to make any money on. It was just this is cool, this is immersive, this is not being done, let's do this. You know, like, and that's kind of the approach that we're taking with this a little bit. So
Yeah, and then as it relates to Biodefense, so again, every
Thank you.
every corporation comes with unique neoprene rooms that you will not see in any other corporation, and that
Two
will really
per corporation.
Yeah, so that's going to help give some unique flavor to that corporation. You have a unique CEO, you have a unique threat meter, which again changes up the game significantly. You have a deck of 15, not spoiling more stretch goals, but maybe more than that. Objectives that are unique to that corporation. You have unique guards that come with that, or unique captains, rather, with unique skills that drastically change up the way security details work across corporations. So there's a lot. There's a lot in there. And so you get a little bit of neoprene, some chips, some new cards in terms of I think new imperatives too. I'm trying to think. It's listed in the add-on section.
It is. It is definitely more equipment or something that comes with Biodefense. So you hit on most everything there.
Yeah. And so again, a new way to interact with the campaign mode, potentially a new way to just a brand new facility to infiltrate, and new map designs and all that kind of stuff.
You have to come at Biodefense from a completely different way. Like they're very heavy on guards, and it's going to have a different feel than the other three. So that is the gist of it.
The Everything Bundle includes the digital lore, which is not mentioned elsewhere. Okay, that's my bad, by the way. So the digital lore should be included with every tier level, just so that we're clear. Can they talk about the digital lore versus the physical product? So in the same way that we've done our previous, though I don't think we released the deluxe, a PDF of the deluxe Inkar Splendor book or those types of things. But with the Bones books, so we did the really crazy physical versions of those books. They were leather bound, flame singed pages on the Liberation logbook. The water logbook was literally.
I'm sorry, Melanie.
Was literally we took every copy and literally physically ground it in the dirt and beat the hell out of it to make it.
And others, there were others that did that too.
Yeah, when I say we, I mean
we.
All of us here. Some of us more than others, and that I mean that not the three of us at this table. Some of us, so we have. Plenty of employees are laughing in the background, but they're mostly crying inside.
Imagine your boss coming to you and saying, would you like to go sit out on the curb for a couple hours and take these books and grind the edges off in the pavement, and then take them over to the dirt and then rub them in the dirt? I mean,
Chip Theory Games now hiring.
Yes.
We're not actually hiring right now, but anyway, so we had those physical versions of those books. We did release the PDFs of them though in digital format so that people who were interested in just reading the lore had a means of doing so. So again, this is still developing in terms of the story, the art, the some other secrets. That are coming along with this.
Come on,
I'm just saying secrets. I didn't say what they were, or even the type of thing that they could be. Whatever is out there that we can release in a digital format, so that you can experience that story, we will do. The physical version is meant as a collector's item, as a keepsake. There's no guarantee we're going to print it in the future. I'm not going to try and give you FOMO and say it is exclusive to this campaign, but it might end up being, depending on just how it sells and how expensive they are to create.
And when you say that, we're just saying, once we sell out, we sell out. Like, it's not necessarily specific to the Kickstarter. It's just that when we place that order of X amount, once they're out, there's no real guarantee on that item that we would be, able to order enough to do it again.
Because a lot of that, again, depends on how much it costs to produce. A lot of that depends on how well Burncycle is received, and we assume it's going to have legs and going to be a franchise we're with and working with for a long time. But if you all hate it, we're probably not going to print another 3,000 lore books or whatever, lore packs. So anyway. Yeah, so that's a little bit about the difference between the two. It's not the actual content in there, the lore content that's in there. We're not really trying to withhold it. In fact, we want to give it to everybody because it's going to help you become more immersed in this world and hopefully have a more enjoyable time playing the game and enjoying the theme of the game.
Yeah.
Will the box fit in a calyx?
Define fit, because there's a this mat is I think now 17 or 18 inches this way, 17 maybe. It'll roll up and be in the box, and that's obviously the long direction. I think a calyx is 1313, like 1575 or something like that for the depth. So it's going to stick out an inch or two, and that's just the reality of it. But we would be remiss if we didn't make the sides fit. So yeah, absolutely, it will fit in one way, but it will be sticking out a ways on the front. Yeah. So.
Would you ever make a game for more than 4 players? No.
No, absolutely.
Wait, more than 4 players play a game?
Yeah.
I thought it was limit 4 for every board game.
Yeah, I think that's a rule.
We don't set out to typically we don't before we start designing something decide, with the exception of maybe Victorum. You want to talk about that? But with we don't set out saying this game will be for 4 players max, and that is the end of it. We try to let the game tell us
that a little bit.
Right.
How many players it should be.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I will say though, we did make a game that can be playable up to
Here we
8 to
go.
10 players. It is the unbelievable Games Pick a Game. So if you buy the orc version and the gateway, you can put them together and play 8-player game to pick a game.
That's amazing.
It is.
It's amazing.
So we do know that you can play with more than 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to this one though. Actually, just in general. I think for me, it speaks to the complexity of the game. The more complexity that you have within a game, the more time it takes for each person to resolve that, and it just beyond a certain point, it just gets too much, and so. Certainly, if we're trying to make each of the characters as dynamic as we can, it does end up starting to put a limit on that, and it usually ends at the 4-player count. This is one of the more streamlined games, but I still think with the command module and the size of the mat, there's not a lot of room. We want there to be a little bit of jockeying for position, and that happens with the 5 bots moving around in this for sure. It is tricky to fit it all in and get where you need to go. Any more than that, I think it would just get more annoying than anything. So,
we tend to design, not to pat ourselves on the back, but just the types of games that we design tend to have really thinky, important strategic decisions with a lot of options at your disposal.
Yep.
And when you do that just automatically kind of means that people are going to need some time on their turn.
Yep.
And so every player you add adds just additional potential analysis paralysis and so on and so forth. So again, Cloudspire can be played 5-player. I don't recommend it. You will be there all day. It's Twilight.
Case in point.
It's Twilight Imperium at that point.
Yeah.
It can be done.
Yeah.
Ryan Howard talks about how he really likes it 5-player sometimes, and I think he's kind of
5-handed?
crazy because I don't have I don't have that kind of time in my life right now. I'll tell you that much.
Rotating table.
Yeah, so this game could be played with 5 players. Same thing though. I don't recommend it. It makes it not as fun to play. So that's really what it
So
boils down to.
in the future, it's not off the table by any means. It's just whether it's complex or not will dictate that a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Do we have anything else? I don't think so. I think this is
ahead of them.
Yeah, this is probably a good time for us to kind of wrap it up. We've got
I think so.
JC and I will be on. If you're a part of Board Game Revolution, that community over on Facebook, JC and I will be doing an interview with some folks at 2:00 Central. So I don't even know what time it is right now.
It's
time.
Almost noon.
It's time. It's almost noon. So we'll be over there later today. If you think of some other questions, please come hang out and join us and join the enthusiasm. I will also be doing an interview with James Hudson tonight at 7:00 Central with James Hudson. over at Board Game Spotlight, another Facebook group that I know a lot of you folks are in and enjoy. So again, keep the questions coming. We're going to be super active in the comments, especially over the next few days. Another couple announcements. We have another episode that won't just be us sitting here talking. We'll have more content for you of CTGTV, our kind of monthly live stream that we do each month. We have the next one is coming on December 8th. On December 8th, so mark your calendars for that. It should be another 9 o'clock is when we usually start that, 10 o'clock? I don't even remember. But we'll be doing it on December 8th. So yeah, mark your calendars for that. And just anything that you folks can do to share this campaign and spread the word about your passion for our products, our company, the way that we run things is so appreciated. So if you have other board gamer friends who enjoy solo play, who are having a hard time finding a board game group right now because of COVID and all that kind of stuff, this is going to be a game that's going to be right in their wheelhouse. So thank you so much for all your support. Thank you so much for spreading the word about what we do. We could not do this without our community. I think we have easily the most passionate and best community in all of tabletop,
for sure.
And we owe so much of our success to all of you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sign off here, and I hope you'll join us on a couple of more of those live streams. Otherwise, we will see you in the comments. And thanks for everything.
Yeah.
We'll see you around.
Thanks.